SS8H2.D explain the transition of Georgia into a royal colony with regard to land ownership, slavery, alcohol, and government. So we're transitioning from a trustee colony with James Oglethorpe to a royal colony with, we're about to find out. So, royal colony. It's good to be the king. Not Burger King so much, but the king of Georgia, which is King George II, because it's the end of the trustee period. Everything's about to change. The trustees return the colony to the king. They are done. The king is now in charge. So what is the king going to do? The rules about land ownership, rum, and slavery have already changed. The trustees gave those up. What is the king going to do? Well, right now, the king's frustrated. King George II is frustrated. There's no economic success. There's no social success. The charter of 1732 is about to expire in a year. So some things are going to have to change. What is the king going to do? Well, as of right now, after Oglethorpe left, the trustees lost control of Georgia when he left. So there was like no one in charge except the trustees who were back in England, but no one was really in charge of Georgia after Oglethorpe left. So the colonists are pretty unhappy and not satisfied. But that's about to change because Georgia, even though they're on the verge of economic collapse, which means nothing financially is working out in their favor, they want and need a leader. The king says, you know what? I hear you, colonists. I'm going to send a royal governor because now we are having a royal colony. The trustee period is over. I am in charge, and I am going to send who I believe will be the best royal governor that you will ever have. And if you want to know how happy the colonists were, you can go to exceedthestandard.com, look at this website, and click here to find out, because I'm totally not going to spoil it for you right now. But this is the Royal Colony Seal. King George II is in charge, and this is the seal, coin, basically, that he made for the colony of Georgia. So we already know land ownership, slavery, and alcohol, that's all changed. But basically, the land policies changed for a couple of reasons. One, yes, the malcontents complained for about 10 years until they got their way. But during the time of the Oglethorpe administration, the trustee period, they gained a lot of land from the American Indians and the Spanish while Oglethorpe was there and after. There's a ton of settlers that are moving in because all these restrictions are now gone. And now there's slavery. So we have a huge increase of people moving to Georgia because now it's a free-for-all. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. But even though you come here, there are some, I guess, rules or laws that occur in regards to land. So what are they? Well, you have to have one servant or family member for every 50 acres of land that you have. And that was mainly for protection of our colony. If you own 100 or let's say 1,000 acres of land. Forget that, 500 acres of land. If you have 500 acres of land, that's a lot of land that you got to walk around and work and use. That's really not going to happen if you have a family of 3 or 4 people. It's just not enough people to basically make sure that no one's coming and attacking your land. So if you want to have a bunch of land, you have to have a bunch of people. And that also includes a servant and family member. So who can own some land? Sorry, ladies, not yet. Only men can own land. However, that doesn't mean men didn't want women to own land. That's just the way it was. They wanted their wives and daughters to inherit their land if they died. Because think about it. If you're a guy, a husband and a father, and you are defending the colony of Georgia, more so your land and family, and you died doing that, shouldn't your family get the land and home that you were defending to live in the colony that you were defending as well? So they wanted their wives and their daughters to inherit the land if they died. It just didn't happen. So what else? We have restrictions on slavery. They were removed. Slaves are now forced to come to the colony of Georgia. And here's the biggest increase because of land ownership was with our population. We had about 500 people in 1750, and that jumped up in 25 years to 18,000 people. That's a huge increase back then of people coming into the colony of Georgia. So that's basically 17,500 people in 25 years. Almost 1,000 people per year. That's insane. Okay, so royal governor, royal government. So who was our first royal governor? Well, it was John Reynolds. I used to teach that Reynolds was wrong, although he came in and he did some good things. A lot of the people didn't really like him, and he only lasted, 3-something years. So who is John Reynolds? He is the first royal governor of the royal colony of Georgia. He's a former Navy captain. A lot of people were excited that he was coming because he was the first ruler they had since Oglethorpe left. And basically, he's given credit for the colonists to have a self-government, and he's the dude that also set up the first bicameral legislature and court system. So bicameral means, think about bicycles. Bicycles have two wheels. Bicameral is two different parts of our legislative branch. Unicameral means one, unicycle. A tricycle, tri means three. So bicameral, if you can remember bicycle, that's two different houses of government, which we're going to look at in a second. What else did he do? Well, he gave the colonists a right to voice their concerns about the evolution of the Georgia colony. Basically, he gave people the right to vote. But sorry, ladies, not yet. Sorry, men, not yet. If you were a guy and had 50 acres of land or more, you could vote. So basically, they're saying anyone that has 50 acres of land, you can vote. No one else can vote. You can hold elections now because of this new royal governor. They can collect taxes because of this new royal governor. Things are starting to get a little bit more intense. And these rules and laws started happening, and the government had to happen because we go from 500 people in 1750 to 18,000 in 1775. That's a lot. The the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. So right around there is when we're talking about 1776. But what is this bicameral thing? What does it mean? Well, it means we have two chambers of our legislature. Think of it right now. We have the House of Representatives and the House Senate. Sort of the same thing, kind of not, but it has two. And a parish is called a British government district. So we had 8 parishes in the colony of Georgia. So basically, Georgia was split up into 8 different sections, and all of those 8 different sections were represented in 2 different houses. We have the lower house and we have the upper house. Now, if you just think of the word lower and upper, which one's better? That's the upper house. The lower house would be not as good. So who can represent the people of Georgia in the lower house? Those wishing to join the assembly had to own at least 500 acres of land. So basically, if you were rich and had 500 acres of land, you could have the possibility of joining the assembly. Now, the upper house is a little bit more difficult to be able to become a member. Why? The King of England has to know who you are. He's going to appoint members to this upper house, which is called the Governor's Council. This is the group of people that counsel the governor. Now look at this. The lower house is the Commons House of Assembly. It's the House of Assembly of the common people that own at least 500 acres of land. So the new government, for the first time in 1755, which was in Savannah, obviously, they reorganized the militia, the people that were fighting for the colony of Georgia. They passed bills to make the roads and build the roads, and drew up codes, this is where it gets interesting, to restrict the rights of slaves. They drew up codes to restrict the rights of slaves, which means slaves had rights until 1755, when the government went for the first time to draw up codes to take the rights of slaves away. When did it start? We're going to say 1755. So here's the bicameral legislature. Remember, bicycle, 2. We have 2 houses of government, the lower house and the upper house. The governor's council is the better one, if you will, the more important one. The Commons House of Assembly is the lower one. And this is just another picture of that interpretation of this into this. The Georgia government, basically the first government we had in Georgia during the royal colony. This is where it all came from. So the reason why we had that government in Georgia was because it came from somewhere. They didn't just say, oh, let's make 2. No, it came from England, okay? We have the lower house and the upper house, the House of Lords, the upper house of England, and the House of Commons, the lower house in England as well. So you have your 2 houses, your 2 branches of the legislature in England, and this is kind of where we get our government as well, with the 2 branches in the legislative branch, which we'll get to a whole lot later from now. So in our first governments, the colonists had differences with each other. They went, if they didn't sue, they went to the Court of Conscience, which had basically a person that said, hey, we're going to resolve this, or it's going to be heard by members of the Governor's Council. What do you want to do? So they did have a government where people could voice their concerns or complaints. So that was good for the people there because they felt like they had a chance to win an argument now. Not during the days of James Oglethorpe so much. Now, in regards to land ownership, what can colonists do? They can buy islands, I guess so, use it for land. Right now, they can buy and sell more land than ever before. That's really where it changed. Colonists can basically buy and sell more land. After the trustee period, during the royal period, colonists can own what? Bacon is always the answer, as far as I'm concerned. But now, because of the malcontents complaining for 10 years, it changes our bacon answer to slaves. They have now slaves in Georgia. It goes against everything the trustee period wanted. The 21 trustees, James Oglethorpe, no, slaves bad. Salzburger's bad, slaves no, it's against our religion. The Highland Scots said no, slaves, that'll take our jobs. Nobody really wanted it except all the people that were complaining, which was not the entire colony. But yes, now during the royal period, under King George II's watch, we now have slaves. After the trustee period and now during the royal period, colonists can buy, sell, and drink. Even though milkshakes are very tasty, that is not our answer. It is alcohol. Slaves, alcohol, more land. This is basically what's going on now in Georgia. What's the Commons House? The common people. Remember that? Where people go to buy common things. No, this is government. Where common things are traded. No, this is government. The form of government implemented. Yeah, okay, so C is our best answer because it's during the royal colony period. The Commons House. That's the end of our quick little video on GSE SS8H2.E. Sorry, D. The next one is on .E, which will be even shorter. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your time on my website, exceedthestandard.com.